Please join me in welcoming Pat. Through her Unity Ministry in Motion, she travels across Canada via Zoom every day, supporting ministries with all kinds of spiritual, musical, technical support, and more. She leads our Across Canada Spiritual Leadership Call every month, which is so nice to come together in unity and share. We feel very blessed to have her support both nationally and with our team and our spiritual community here. So with that, we welcome you, Pat, Reverend Pat.
Thank you so much, Desiree. That was quite, yeah. I don't travel too much. I travel virtually now. So just a little faith. Yeah, aren't we lucky to have this time together? I want to read to you from the Bible. I know we don't usually read the Bible too much. Just a seckie. Okay. So I'm getting there. Okay. So Jesus at this time has been traveling around healing people and so forth. And so as he went, it says, as he went, the crowds pressed in on him. Now there was a woman who'd been suffering from hemorrhages for 12 years. And though she had spent all she had on physicians, ever been there? No one could cure her. She came up behind him and touched the hem of his garment. And immediately her hemorrhage stopped. Then Jesus asked, "Who touched me?" When all denied it, because she kind of got lost in the crowd, Peter said, "Master, the crowds surround you and press in on you." But Jesus said, "Someone touched me, for I noticed that the power had gone out from me." When the woman saw that she could not remain hidden, she came trembling, and falling down before him, she declared in the presence of all the people why she had touched him and how she had been immediately healed. And he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace." So just picture this scene. Jesus is surrounded by men, of course, because only the men counted. You know, the story about the loaves and the fishes when it said that Jesus fed 5,000 men. And women and children were there too, but they weren't counted in the 5,000. Anyway, but Jesus was surrounded by these men who wanted to hear his words, to be in his presence. That woman, we don't even know her name, which is usual in the Bible, what chance did she have to get through to him? And yet she believed so strongly that all she had to do was touch Jesus' garment and she would be healed. She had faith. Just get through the crowd and touch the hem of Jesus. Just touch the hem. She didn't figure on Jesus' response. He turned and said, "Who touched me?" And Peter said, "You're surrounded by people, Jesus. What do you mean, who touched your clothes? Who touched you?" But the woman came forward and admitted she just wanted to be healed. And Jesus said to her, "Your faith has made you whole." Not my faith has made you whole, but your faith has made you whole. What does this mean? How could it be so healing to simply touch the hem of the garment? Jesus knew that it was a matter of faith. Did you know that our co-founders, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, used to earn their living by spiritual healing? Yeah, they used to have regular office hours and appointments. You can go and see their offices if you go to Unity Village or if you go to the first church that they founded on Tracy Street. And you can read about it in Charles's book, The Atom-Smashing Power of the Mind. He wrote in it, "The majority of cases that come to us," he's talking about him and his wife, "belong to the class of the discouraged woman told us that in Luke 4:8-43. That's the woman that I just talked about, who spent all her living upon physicians and could not be healed. Yeah, a lot of people have gone from doctor to doctor to doctor, right? Doctors have pronounced them incurable. This is Charles saying this. Doctors have pronounced them incurable, and as a last resort, they turn to God. A last resort. The hardest part of the work in their healing, talking about the people's healing, is to get out of their minds the verdict of the doctor that their cases are incurable. We have discovered that there are no incurables. With God, all things are possible. And you know, that's so interesting, because one of the things that we know is that there are no incurables. That for every single disease or syndrome or whatever there is that exists, at least one person has been healed of it. And so if one person can, why not more? Why not you if you're suffering from something? Any experienced metaphysical healer, and in his day, in Fillmore's days, there were a lot of them, will tell you that he's just been the instrument through which all popular diseases have been healed. Some of the stories told by patients are beyond human credence or belief. For example, the restoration of the eyes of a man from which they had been removed, and the growth of the nose of a woman who had lost it by disease. They're very rare, but well authenticated in metaphysical circles. I'm not prepared to give the names of these cases, but I can testify to my own healing of tuberculosis of the hip. And indeed, Charles, when he was 12, had an accident and it had culminated in tuberculosis of the hip, which had caused his leg, I can't remember if it was his left leg or his right leg, to stop growing at the age of 12. The other leg kept growing, but this one shriveled and it didn't develop the muscles and the length. But once he started healing himself, it started growing. And Reverend Chris Chenoweth, who's a Unity minister and lived at Unity Village when the Fillmores lived there, saw Charles's leg after he had healed it. And it was now, instead of being 6 inches shorter than the other one, it was only about 1 inch shorter. And instead of being a shriveled little leg, it was filled out like the other one. And in fact, first Myrtle healed herself of tuberculosis, a terminal disease in the late 1800s. There was no cure, just remission if they were lucky. You can read the whole story of their healing on unity.org. Well, that's a whole different talk. One of the things I just want to make sure that you're aware of is that healing is awakening to the realization that our true spiritual nature is wholeness, oneness with God. And in order to get that, we have to actually move through the crowd. Metaphysically, those thoughts and feelings and beliefs in our mind that crowd out that knowledge of who we are, that tell us that we're less than whole, that we don't deserve to be whole, those little niggly thoughts and voices, oh yeah, right, like that's going to happen, those kinds of thoughts. But we can push through the crowd and contact that true reality within us, our spiritual identity, the Christ presence. We have to be persistent, as this woman was. She'd heard about the remarkable cures that Jesus has done, and she made a determined effort to reach him. That's what faith is. Determined effort, believing that we will reach our goal. We have to move through the crowd and not give up until we've reached the goal. That's how mountains are moved. Faith stands for feeling as if the thing has already happened. Faith. I like to add and act. Feel and act as if the thing has already happened. Because it's one thing to feel something, but it's another to act from that feeling. So the first step is to believe that whatever we want, whatever we desire, that we can have it, and then start acting as if it's already a reality. It's kind of like how we act when we get into our car. if we've been keeping it in good shape, if we've changed the oil, paid attention to the warning signs, attended to them, then we usually have faith that it will start and take us where we want to go. We don't usually get into the car and sit there for a few minutes hoping that it will start, do we? We just get into it and turn the key, or, of course, in these days, press the brake and the start button on your little fob, thinking about where we're going. It doesn't even occur to us if we've done all that is ours to do to keep it so it will run. And then, so the whole point is the next step is to be grateful, to be thankful to the Spirit within us, because the truth is that our Christ consciousness will never steer us wrong. Never. We just have to touch the hem. How do we do that? I can just imagine the woman touching the hem. I would imagine she probably, as she touched it, let go of her breath and felt absolute gratitude as she felt that change in her body. And that's exactly what we can do. Still our mind. Take time to go within and experience the silence. Commune with the oneness of God. Khalil Gibran said, faith is an oasis in the heart, which will never be reached by the caravan of thinking. Don't you love that expression? An oasis. It's kind of like in the desert, there's all the dry land around, and suddenly there's a place where there's water and trees. And it will never be reached by the caravan of thoughts. A whole caravan, just picture all those camels coming across the desert, loaded with thoughts, trying to find the oasis. It'll never get there, because faith has nothing to do with our thoughts, does it? It's in our heart. That's where we feel, not our mind. So to reach that oasis, we need to spend time in affirmative prayer and meditation, and then listen to the guidance we receive. Thinking back to the metaphor of Jesus' garment that was touched, without a hem, the bottom of it would become unraveled, wouldn't it? That hem keeps it secure, so it can't be pulled apart. That's the power of prayer. Without it, our lives can slowly unravel. But by touching the hem, by being prayed up, we're secure, rooted in truth, and anchored in the power of Spirit. Because I live in Ontario now, and I'm also, Unity Ministry in Motion is also nurturing Unity of York Region. I go to that service there too. And so that was happening at 10:30 our time, which is 7:30 your time. But the topic for today from the speaker was the power of prayer. And she said, just stop, drop, and pray. That was her new affirmation. Stop, drop, and pray. And she said, just instead of taking a coffee break, take a prayer break. She said, just picture, when you have your hands around a cup, look at the shape they're in. They're holding the cup, and then you're kind of like drinking. And instead of that, take a prayer break. And just allow yourself to be prayed up all the time. It's so wonderful. So that we can respond to what's going on from a place of faith. Remember, faith gives us the courage to leap. The courage to leap. To try something new. Now, I'm not talking about blind faith. I imagine this guy knew how far he could jump before he tried it. He probably had been starting with little bits, and then just got further and further away. Because you can see, if you follow the arc of his foot, you can tell very well that he's going to land on that other side. But he had to try it. Blind faith is kind of the kind that was shown by a father and son who, they were from a remote area and they were making their first visit to a big city, and they checked into a grand hotel, and They just stood there in amazement at the impressive sight. So then they left the reception desk, they came to the elevator entrance, and they'd never seen an elevator before. And they just stared at it, unable to figure out what it was for. I've often wondered what Chloe thinks about when we get in an elevator. And I mean, she's used to standing there and waiting now for the doors to close. And she knows that they'll, I wonder what she's thinking, how she figures out, why are we in a different place when all we did was go in this little room and the door opened and closed and opened again? It's so, wouldn't you be confused? But anyway, so these guys were just looking at the elevator, and an old lady hobbled towards the elevator and went inside, and the door closed, and about a minute later, the same door opened, and out came a stunningly good-looking young woman, and the father couldn't stop staring, and he says, without turning his head, he patted his son, he says, "Go get your mother, son." We're not talking about that kind of faith, thinking that there's going to be magic in this elevator. We're talking about understanding faith, the faith that understands who we really are, the truth of our being. You see the difference? We don't walk into elevators thinking that we'll somehow be transformed, but by touching the hem, by spending time connecting to the truth of who we are, we have faith that we will receive spiritual vision and be guided into right action. And we do that by recognizing our distracting thoughts, examining them, clearing them all away, and spending time just communing with the beautiful, healing, guiding presence within us. Does this mean that life will always be smooth sailing, that there'll be no more mountains to climb? No. But faith is what raises us up so that we can get over these mountains. We don't need a lot of faith. We don't need a huge mountain full of faith. We just need to use the faith that we have. Faith in what we know about ourselves. But what do you believe about yourself? Do you believe that you are the son or daughter, a manifestation of the divine? Do you believe that the power that creates and sustains all life is in charge? Do you know the power that is within you? Or do you believe in your smallness, your powerlessness? Marianne Williams speaks about the power of our beliefs in her book, A Return to Love. She says, if we're already convinced that people can't be trusted, if that's the decision we've already made, then our mind will construe whatever someone's behavior is as evidence that our previously drawn conclusion was correct. We decide what we want to see before we see it. So maybe not so much what we want to see, but what we're going to see before we see it. If we're determined that this person in front of us is untrustworthy, then everything they do will be evidence that they're untrustworthy. So it's up to us to decide to take those covers off our eyes. Because when we're looking for trouble, we'll see only trouble. There's a story about a new mission, and his name was Herbert Jackson, who was assigned a car that he was told wouldn't start without a push. Now, I'm not sure if it was as bad as this one, but it was in some remote area where they didn't have car repairs. But after thinking about it, he devised a plan, and he went to the school near his home and got permission to take some children out of class, could you believe it, and have them push his car. So then it would start and he could get going. And so as he went around to see his parishioners, or I guess he was a missionary, so I don't know what he was doing, he would either park on a hill or leave the engine running. And he used this ingenious procedure for 2 years. Well, finally, one of his family members got sick, and so they had to leave to go back to, I guess, England or the States, wherever they were. And just before they left, a new missionary came, And Jackson was proudly explaining his arrangement for getting the car started, and the new guy started looking under the hood. And before Dr. Jackson had finished, he said, "Why, Dr. Jackson, I believe the only trouble is this loose cable." And he gave the cable a twist and stepped into the car and pushed the switch, and to Jackson's astonishment, the engine roared to life. For 2 years, needless trouble had become routine. Can you believe it? The power was there all the time. It was only his belief about the car that blocked his power to check it out. I wonder if he didn't even change the oil for 2 years. I wonder. Anyway, maybe he didn't even know that there was a loose cable, wouldn't have recognized it, but so interesting, eh? Faith is knowing that we're always connected to the source of power. We have to broaden our vision by opening up our awareness of God and accepting the very best for us. When we do this, the very best will come. I didn't always know this. I thought that I had to make things happen. I didn't even know. I was kind of like that missionary. I never looked under my hood. I did not know that all I had to do was connect to God, and that I would be able to go wherever I wanted. I remember when things changed for me. I was sitting in the intensive care at Victoria Hospital in London many years ago. Talking 20 years, more than 20 years ago. My then husband, Ray, had fallen off a ladder, sustaining a severe brain injury. He cracked his skull. We lived in Sault Ste. Marie at the time, and I worked as a nurse in the intensive care there. And so I actually was not at work that day, but I certainly went in very quickly. So this injury was more than we could handle as his condition deteriorated, because what happens is when the brain injury, your head kind of starts to swell, and that causes actually what kills people. The actual injury wasn't the problem, it was what the results of that. But Ray was flown down to London in one of these little ambulances, and I followed by car, not knowing if he was going to be alive or dead when I got there, not knowing what was going to happen, and just sitting in a kind of a daze in the intensive care waiting room. My kids came and we were just all sitting there. I had recently been introduced to the Serenity Prayer through a 12-step program. And I remember sitting there just saying it to myself over and over and over. And after a while, I realized that not only was I letting go of the outcome, but I knew whatever it was, all would be well. I felt enfolded in presence, comforted by measure, and serene and calm. I know now that I was living from faith at that time. And since then, things have happened. You know, it's so amazing knowing that when we're connected, when we've touched the hem, when we've connected that wire, when we know that there is a wire, then our life will change. And that's what faith is about. We need to be receptive and open and willing to change our good, to find the good in whatever is happening, no matter how small it is. Teensy-weensy bit of faith can grow. As it says, Jesus is quoted as saying, faith the size of a mustard seed, which is a little teensy piece of a seed that grows into this huge tree. And when we focus on that, then we will allow faith in our lives to say yes to whatever's happening, knowing that there is good in it. Let's prepare to take this all into meditation as we listen to Karen Drucker sing, I Have Faith.
I pray faith, I choose faith, I am faith, I have faith, I pray faith, I choose faith, I am faith, I have hope, I pray hope, I choose hope, I am hope, I have hope, I pray hope, I choose hope, I am hope. When I trust and I let go, I know all is well. I have love, I pray love, I choose love, I am love, I have love, I pray love, I choose love, I am love, you are love, we are love, all God's children are love, you are love, we are love, all God's children are love. When I trust and I let go, I know all is well. When I trust and I let go, I know all is well.
So I invite you to just relax. Allow your eyes to gently close and breathe. Breathe. We are so blessed. Just allow your muscles listen to the ocean. Feel the rhythm of the universe. I have faith. Let's drop all our thoughts of conditions, personal desires, and personalities. Center our attention in God. Think only of God. 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 Let's stop trying so hard to change those things we have no control over. Let's rest our minds and our hearts and our emotions, our feelings and our bodies in the safety of God in faith. Think of God only. No one, not even God, can change us or our circumstances as long as we insist on looking at and thinking and worrying about ourselves and our problems. Most of our problems are in our minds because we've made them up. So we withdraw our thoughts and feelings from the things we have imagined. We call forth the power of faith and rest in that thought. We watch negation fall flat and dissolve. God has given us free will to choose. And so we choose rightly. There is only one presence and one power in our lives and in our world. God the good. We have faith that, as Myrtle Fillmore affirmed, God is our present help in this moment and in every moment. You take this thought into the silence. We imagine we are sitting by the seashore, listening to the ocean waves come in and out, silencing our mind as we lift our consciousness above material things and personality and human limitation. The daily word said dream. Dream. Dream with understanding faith. Allow our minds to dwell on possibilities with God. We are blessed. And so it is. Take a deep breath in and wiggle your fingers and toes and rearrange yourself in your chair. And when you're ready, open your eyes and listen to Holly as she brings us out of meditation.
Does the rain fall? Journey from Earth drinks the water for another day alive. Why does my heart beat? Blood coursing through my veins. Water is magic, always changing and the same. Sometimes I need to believe in something that cannot be lost. Sometimes I need to believe in something that I know is true. Sometimes I need to believe this river can be crossed. Right now I need to find my way to you. Why does the rain fall? Journey from the sky. Earth drinks the water for another day alive. Why does my heart beat? Blood coursing through my veins. Water is magic, always changing and the same. I might come back as a red-winged blackbird and sing my song. Or a crow and let you know what's about to fall. Or a hunter in the woods and take you for myself. Or I might come back as nothing at all. Oh, yeah. Drop of water like a jewel, oxygen, hydrogen molecule. There's a third thing that makes it water. Nobody knows what it is. It's magic. Heartbeat pounding like a drum. One day it starts, then it's done. What's the force that goes on forever? Nobody knows what it is. It's magic. Crushing pain, aching hearts, Mother Nature torn apart. Where do we begin? How do we start? We know what to do. Use magic. Human creativity, love, ingenuity, endless possibilities. Once we are open to magic. Only when you drink from the river of silence shall you truly say, what you find. Why does the rain fall? Journey from the sky. Earth drinks the water for another day of life.
Wow. Thank you so much, Holly. That was wonderful.
You're very welcome.
Now, wonderful. What a wonderful service altogether. And thank you, Pat, for your enlightening us with your message on faith today and for your calming and life-affirming meditation. And thank you, Holly, for your inspiring message through your energizing music, your clear and angelic voice.
It's a pleasure.
We appreciate you.
I really appreciate the opportunity to be in a spiritual place and share songs.
Wonderful. Well, we feel very blessed to have you. So thank you.